of what the GL account actually is. It is a temporary liability account. Now, why a liability? Well, think of it this way. This account is credited when you do receipt of goods from your purchase order. You are receiving in your inventory an asset, and you need to credit an account, right? So you need to credit your liability purchases clearing, which is a temporary payable account. You owe someone money for these assets that you have just added to your system. I'm going to say this loud and clear. It is not, purchases clearing is not an inventory account, so it should not be set up as an asset. It should not be set up as a cost of sales. So, right now, get in your mind, temporary liability account. I have this conversation multiple times throughout the year. Now, where is this account set? Is it set in the purchase order module? No, it is not. It's actually set in inventory under your product lines. So if you go to inventory setup and you go to product line maintenance, I'm going to click OK on my dates here, and I'm going to pull up one of my product lines. If I go to the Accounts tab, you're going to see my Purchases Clearing account right here. Every single product line should have a Purchases Clearing account. Now, will there be an exception to this rule? Yeah, occasionally there will be. And what is the exception? Sometimes I do have some folks who will create a product line for instance, the labor. Labor is really not an inventory item. We know that. We understand that. But sometimes we have to manipulate the system in order to get things out that we want. So you may not do a purchases clearing account. It may be a cost of sale account in that because you'll never be receiving that in. But keep in mind, it's going to debit this account and credit this account when you do receipt of goods. What happens if we do receipt of goods with an invoice number? Well, then it completely bypasses the purchases clearing account. It's going to debit inventory and credit accounts payable. Now, for those of us who are lucky enough to get hired in after the system's up and running, what happens? You inherit, normally, a purchases clearing account that's a mess, meaning that it hasn't been reconciled in years. So just like payables and receivables, any of our balance sheet accounts, we need to reconcile purchases clearing, and there are reports in the system to allow us to do that. But what will happen is you'll go to print that report, and you'll have tons and tons and tons of open purchase orders on there, and you won't know why. Okay, so let's go. Let's see, what report do we run to reconcile? Well, let's go to purchase order. I'm going to go ahead and close our inventory here. We're going to go to purchase order, and we're going to go to period end, and we're going to go to the purchases clearing report. This report, by default, can only run as of today. So you cannot say to me, well, June 30 is our year end, and I want to run my purchases clearing report as of June 30th. Nice try, but it's not going to happen. You can change your date down here, all that you want in your lower right-hand corner, but it's still going to run this report as of today. So especially when we get to year end, when we're doing a lot of our reconciling, I tell people, hey, you do your physical, you update your physical count, you run your inventory, valuation report, run your purchases clearing also. So let's run those, compare it to our ledger. We'll do the physical inventory compare and the purchases clearing at the same time. So keep that in mind. We cannot work backwards. We can only work as of today. When you run this report, this is what it's going to look like. Let me make this a little bigger for normal people to be able to see. I'm going to scoot my screen over that you can't see. But what we're going to see here are open purchase orders. Okay? What appears on this report? These are purchase orders that have had quantity received on them and quantity invoiced on them. Now, rule of thumb, number one, basic rule of thumb, this is the way it is. Quantity ordered, quantity received, quantity invoiced. All have to be the same number or same quantity in order for that purchase order to complete. So if I ordered 10, I have to receive 10, and I have to be invoiced for 10. Now, as you can see, based on my report, I got some things that are wrong. And for those of you that inherit purchase orders, purchases clearing, you're going to have a lot of things that are wrong, okay? I go into clients, and I sometimes will click on, a purchase order entry, and I click on the magnifying glass, and there's, 1,600, 2,000 POs out there. And I shake my head, and I go, whoa, 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 what? It's because nobody has been watching these quantities and making sure that they are the same. Therefore, they never complete, they never come off the purchases clearing report. So the very first thing I tell people to do, hey, let's run the purchase to clearing report. Let's see what's on here, okay? And that's where we would begin to reconcile. But let's take a step back and let's actually walk through the process of how a purchase order, receipt of goods, and receipt of invoice actually post. Now, actually, I'm going to take one step back again. I want to reopen this report. This balance on this report, my balance here, this 15,009.14, that better balance to my general ledger. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to go up to my account inquiry here that I drug up to the top, and I'm going to remind you that my test data is in old year, so I'm going to pull myself up to 2014, click on my history tab, and look what number I've got there, 15,009.14. I'm in balance. Yay me, I'm in balance. So that's the first thing, that's step one when you go to reconcile this. Check to see if you're in balance. Probably about 50% of the time, or maybe even less, a lot of you aren't in balance, but we're going to deal with that later. But okay, just wanted to show that that's what's supposed to happen. But also notice this shows a credit balance. Once again, liability account, most often you will have a credit balance. But when you look at this report, here it shows as a positive amount. Keep this in your mind, that's really a negative. So if you see a negative on this report, then there'll be a positive on your ledger, okay? Just some quick stuff right there, okay? Now, all right, so let's go back to talk about how this actually gets populated. So if we come into purchase order entry and we create a new PO, okay? And let's do it for my favorite Container Corporation. And we are going to order some paper caddies. And I want to order 10 of those. All right, so now I have my purchase order. Purchase order does not do any type of posting, right? It's just a purchase order. System will note that, we have 10 of these on order, etc. So a week later, the UPS truck drives up and throws the box on our dock, and our warehouse guys now have that box, and they are going to do receipt of goods. That is, if we trust them to do it. A lot of us, we can trust them to do it. So we're going to go into receipt of goods. We're going to click on the pound sign for the next new receipt number, and we're going to come in here, and we're going to pretend it's a couple days later. We're going to receive in this box. At this point, I am not putting in an invoice number. Why? Because I don't have an invoice. I have a packing list. Sometimes I do. We're getting faster and faster about invoicing this stuff. So some of our folks are actually sending invoices in boxes now, but most of the time it comes a couple days later in the mail. So my warehouse guy goes to lines. We're going to receive in the whole order, and I'm going to go to my totals, and I'm going to hit accept. Now I can either click my printer icon right down here, or I can come here and click my daily receipt registers and updates. I'm going to go ahead and click my little icon, and I'm going to hit print. And I am paperless here, so it should show up here on my screen in a second. And I don't want the back order fill report. Okay, so here is my purchase report and shows me what I've purchased. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of that. I can print it if I want to. Oops, sorry, I hit the wrong close. And I'm going to say, yes, I want to receive my receipt, or excuse me, update my receipt of goods. So what does that do? That marks my purchase order that has been received and puts that product into inventory. So here's my daily transaction register that goes with that receipt of goods. And what does that daily transaction register do? It debits inventory and credits purchases clearing, temporary liability. Now, normally I would post this, but I want to keep it up on the screen so you can see the other postings. So I'm going to say no, I don't want to post a daily transaction register. Normally you're going to say yes. Okay, now it's a couple days later. And accounting has, before I do that, I want to show you how this affects the purchases clearing. So let's go back to our period end purchases clearing report, and I'm going to preview it. So now when I look at this report, let's make it big. Here is that PO I just entered. Ordered 10, received 10, I haven't been invoiced for any. So now my purchases clearing account should be the 15,235. So if I go back out to account inquiry and bring that account up, put myself into the right year, and me bad. Didn't show it. Why? Because I didn't post my daily transaction register. Okay, so keep that in mind. Since I didn't post the daily transaction register, it didn't hit the account. So let's go back, go ahead and post it, even though I was going to do it later, but it just kind of ruined the effect that I wanted to show you, so we're going to go ahead and post it. So I'm going to go ahead and go out of there, say yes, bring that up, put myself in 2010, and folks, try not to keep those years open. This is just weird data for me, but here's my 15,235. So I am still in balance with my purchases clearing report. Yay. Now, once again, it's an account that you can reconcile every week if you wanted to. Okay? So a couple days later, we're going to do receipt of invoice. So once again, we're going to grab this PO because I have the invoice in hand. Here's my invoice number. Go to my lines. I'm going to say, yes, they invoiced me for the entire amount. I'm going to go to my totals and accept it. And once again, I'm printing my daily report. Now, normally, yeah, you're doing 3, 4, 5, 10, however many receipts. You're not posting after every one, but for our example, that's why we're posting after each one. So my register is going to come up here on my paperless. Shows me that I've ordered 10, I've received 10, and I was invoiced for 10. So this is kind of a nice, invoice register is kind of nice because it does show you how many you've received previously, okay? So here's, just another part of my purchases journal and my little tax journal if I am somebody who tracks tax on my purchases. So once again, I'm going to update my daily transaction register. I'm going to print it. And what does it do? Credits accounts payable and debits purchases clearing. Therefore, taking that dollar amount out of purchases clearing and now putting it into my real payable account, which is where it belongs. So once, that PO clearing account was just a little small holding account for us. If I go and I look it up again, we're going to see the balance is now at the 15,009 again, because if I go and look up my purchases clearing, that PO no longer appears on here. Why? Because I ordered 10, received 10, and was invoiced for 10. This is one's from the 22nd. That's one I did a couple days ago. If I go back, and one thing that I like to do in my purchase order is when I go to pull up that PO, it tells me it's been completed, 10, 10, and 10, right? I'm going to say this a million times. It is now completed. You see it as a status. And I like to go here, and quite often I will pull these fields up onto my PO so I can easily see what has happened on a line on a PO, especially if I'm trying to reconcile and figure out what has happened. This way I don't have to look at the bottom grid. I've got everything up there. And keep in mind, these, you can pull those up per user, so individuals can have, different looking screens. So that's how that account is populated. And as you see, wow, how easy that was to keep that clean, right? Well, our worlds aren't perfect, but, things happen. Okay, that was a perfect transaction. Let's talk about things that can happen in not so perfect transactions, okay? Let's create a purchase order. And what we're going to do with this PO, we're going to use Container. They're my favorite vendor. And let us order some product here. Let's do a printer stand this time. And I'm going to order 25 of these. Now, this is a question that I get, quite often from people is, what happens if, I don't receive everything in? So we're going to do receipt of goods on that new PO that we just had. I'm going to come, once again, no invoice number, okay? And I'm going to go to the lines, and I'm going to say, no, I don't want to receive the whole thing in, because let's say I only got 20 of them. Well, what happens to those other 5 is the system's going to put them in back order, okay? So I'm going to go to my totals, and I'm going to accept it, and I'm going to print out my daily receipt register, and I'm going to post that. So here I am, 20 ordered, or 25 ordered, 20 received, 5 on back order, right? I'm going to post it. I'm going to do my daily transaction register, and it's only going to post an amount for those 20 that I received. So here I have now hit my inventory with a debit, hit my purchases clearing. Now, accounting gets an invoice for that PO. So accounting comes in here, and they put the invoice number in, and well, one of two things happen. Either somebody on the other end invoiced them for too many. The vendor accidentally invoiced for too many, or maybe they sent the other 5 and the other 5 haven't come in yet. Or accounting really wasn't paying attention. They're very stressed and they work very hard. And they were trying to work really fast because they're catching up. And they accidentally hit, yeah, I want to invoice the complete. So now they have been invoiced for 25. Okay? Go to our totals. We can add freight if we want to add freight. And actually, let's go ahead and add freight so you can see what it does to the entry, because I have people ask about that. Does it hit purchases clearing? The answer is no. We're going to do our daily receipt register. And it's going to show us on that invoice register, one more journal, that I ordered 25, I received 20, and I invoiced 25. Now, once again, I love our accountants. We're great, but we're all so busy. Maybe we didn't notice this because it's, we just don't always notice this. But this could have been a red flag for somebody to say, "Ooh, why do I have a difference here?" And at this point, if you haven't posted yet, you could stop and go back and figure out what's wrong. Otherwise, obviously you can research in the end. But we do have a little bit of a problem there, but that's okay. That may be real world. Like I said, maybe the box is still out on the dock or in transit for that other 5. So I'm going to post my daily transaction register. It's going to hit my payable account for that entire amount of the invoice. It's going to hit my purchases clearing account for, the dollar amount net of the $5 freight. So once again, my purchases clearing should still stay in balance to my report. So if I'm going to choose my report, I'm going to preview it, and my dollar amount is now the 14,602. And if I come here to account inquiry, I'm at 14,602. So I'm still in balance. My quantities are wrong, but I'm still in balance. So, you know, as somebody who's reconciling this account, I'm going to come down here and go, hey, what happened? Just like I would up here where I've got negatives, because then I really want to find out what happened. But I'm going to look at this. These guys are normal to me. I mean, this, you know, okay, this is fine. I've received, oh, except for this one. I received in more than what I ordered, so I'm going to research that one. These two look great. I'm just waiting for invoices. This looks funny to me, so I'm going to research that to find out, hey, why was I invoiced for more than what I received? Did somebody make a boo-boo, or do I still have 5 on back order, but they went ahead and invoiced me for all 25? You know, those are the light bulbs that need to go off when we reconcile this account. Okay, so another question that people ask me all the time is, okay, well, what if I get invoiced for a different dollar amount than what I originally put the you know, the PO in for? So let's do that scenario too. So we come in here and we're going to order. Let's order some of these right here, and I'm going to order 10 of these at 101. Okay. And let's go down to receipt of goods. Now, we're just going to make this a normal, everyday kind of receipt. I'm not going to put an invoice number in because I don't have it. I'm going to receive the whole amount in at the 101. And then I'm going to accept it. All right, let's print our daily reports, and we're going to post those. So now I've done a receipt of goods for 10 of those at the $101. So it's going into my inventory at 101. I'm going to say no to the daily transaction register right now. Accounting gets the invoice. And when accounting gets the invoice, they note that this dollar amount is incorrect. It really was, or this is what I was billed for. Now, as somebody in the accounting department, in my opinion, before I post this, it's my job to go to the person who executed the purchase order and say, hey, what's up with this? Because I just got a bill in, and this is, you know, for a, you know, pretty decent amount more than what you put your PO in. And were you aware of that? Were you quoted a price and they didn't honor the price? So, you know, there may be some phone calls that need to be made before you post this. The other situation that you have to be very, very careful with this is this quantity has gone into inventory at a lower cost, but you were billed a higher cost. So what happens to that difference? You know, a lot of us, you know, that is something we do have to worry about. Okay, we're going to do a 0 discount on here. I'm going to go ahead and let's kind of print this so you can see what happens. One more journal after this. Hey, Laura, I'm going to be doing that. What you have a question on, I'm going to be doing it next. Okay, so it's telling me that I have a variance, okay, from my receipt of goods register. So this is my $1,300 because I received it in as $130. And here's my journal, just kind of a recap of what you've purchased. Here's a tax journal, but here's my variance journal. So this is telling me I received it in 101, and I was invoiced for 130, and this is my dollar variance. And I'm going to go ahead and post that because the guy says, yeah, it's a good price. So now let's look at our daily transaction register. And keep in mind, I did not, let's see, it may not show both of them. I might have to back out. Ah, good, it does show both. So here's my first one. This is my, oh no, this doesn't show both. Let me back out here. I'm going to say no. I want to go down here to show both of them. I didn't post my original one. I don't think I did. So let's take a look. Yes, okay. Here is my receipt of goods. And I can tell it's a receipt of goods because it has a G there, a little trick of mine. It hit inventory for the 10/18/09, hit purchases clearing for 10/18/09. Okay? I receive in the invoice, hits for $1,300. And what does it do? Here's purchases clearing for $1,300, but you go, oh my gosh, no, it didn't. It really went in for 10/18/09. But here's my variance journal, which fixes that. Hits purchases clearing for the 281.91 difference. So your net result is the 10/18/09. So the system will keep it in balance, okay? It definitely will keep it in balance for you. But my red flag, and this is kind of going off of purchases clearing a little bit, but my red flag is, okay, now you've got stock in your inventory at an incorrect cost. So, you know, some of us, it may be no big deal. For commission salespeople, it may be a big deal because that could affect their commissions. It could affect their commissions good. It could affect them in a bad way. And here's the other problem, that is if that stock has already been sold, you're out of luck. Okay, you're just out of luck. Notice that this, and this is, since this is test data, this shows like a miscellaneous account. I would never, ever have this set up as a miscellaneous account. This would be set up as a, like an inventory variation, a cost of sale account. So don't let this one fool you. It's just the way Sage set it up. None of us would ever put it to a 900 miscellaneous account. It should be cost of sales. But once again, you should be able to stay in balance. Okay, now, so far I've been staying in balance, and I haven't been saying, and everything, actually everything I've been saying says you should be able to stay in balance, right? Well, there's a few things that can throw you out of balance. So let's talk about what can throw you out of balance. The number one culprit is returns. And Laura, you're dead on. Return of goods, you have to do it, but you have to be careful. So what normally happens when you do a return of goods, let's talk about doing a return of goods and reopening the purchase order. So if I come in here, oh, actually, before I do that, let's check our balances one more time. So I'm going to go into purchases clearing report. I'm going to preview it, and we are going to come here. We're going to open this up. There's our dollar amount, 14,602. We're going to go back to our ledger. Going to bring the dollar amount up, and we are hopefully, cross my fingers, don't want to look crazy, 14,602. Yay, good. So we're still in balance. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful world because we've done everything right. So let's talk about what can happen with return of goods. When you do a return of goods, you can put in a purchase order number. So let's put in this one. And you can put an invoice number in. Now, what is this invoice number? It's something that you can make up yourself if you want to. And what that'll do is it will actually put a debit memo into accounts payable for you for this vendor. Now, keep in mind, that's not, the vendor is going to send you a credit, right? And I call it a debit memo because it's going to be opposite, of your normal credit balance in payables. But it's going to put a credit out there in payables for you. I don't like to put invoices in there because what happens is the vendor sends an invoice, And then we go ahead and enter that invoice, and now we got two credit invoices sitting in accounts payable. So a lot of times I leave this field blank. But if I come here to lines, it's going to ask me if I want to return my whole order. I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And let's say I do want to return all 10 of these. Maybe they were defective. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my totals. I can print a return order if I want to. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and do it so you can see what it looks like. And here's my return order. And this is what I am sending back. So now I'm going to print a register. And just like, any of our other receipt of goods, receipt of invoice, it's a register. It's got to be printed and posted. What it'll do is it'll take that inventory out of stock. And because of the fact that I put a purchase order number on here, it's going to reopen my PO. So I want you to look at the journal entry that it's going to create. So what does it hit? Purchases clearing, right? We're taking it out of here. So it's got to take that back out because we put it in there initially. So I'm going to say yes to my daily transaction register. And if I go back and I look at my purchase order, oops, it's now in back order status. And I have 10 of these on back order. If I go and I look at my account, there's my balance. Look at purchases clearing. And I am still, well, actually I'm no longer in balance. Okay. Because why? Because it's waiting for that credit to come back from that vendor. When the credit comes from the vendor, where do you hit it? Purchases clearing. Okay? Now, what else will throw you out is when you do a return of goods without a PO. So, okay, that first one is something we're going to keep in a drawer, waiting, for, and the register, waiting, waiting for the credit memo so we know when we try to reconcile. Here's another one that we're going to keep in a drawer because I'm returning 2 of these without a PO number. I'm not going to print it. Let's just do the register. Now, keep in mind, on that very first one that I did, if I would have put an invoice number in, it would have debited accounts payable and would have credited inventory. But since I didn't put an invoice number in, it hit purchases clearing. So that's why I have to keep that aside. This one I did not put a PO number in, so it's not going to reopen my purchase order. And once again, it's going to affect my purchases clearing. So that's going to throw me even further out on my purchases clearing count. And make sure I posted everything. I'm just going to go back through and make sure that's empty. Okay, good. So any returns you have to pay close attention to. Sometimes regardless of whether or not you have put the PO number in, but definitely if you have not, because it will throw you out of balance. So I'm out. Okay? Returns are normally the biggest culprit to throwing these out of balance. The other thing that can throw you out of balance is doing an inventory receipt. And an inventory receipt will also hit purchases clearing. So let's go into transaction entry and let's do receipts. And let's go to lines. And let's receive in 10 of these. Okay, I'm going to print my register. Most often, if you have the PO module, you're not going to do an inventory receipt. So here's my receipt. And then here's my daily transaction register. What does it hit? Purchases clearing. So when I start reconciling, what are the things that I look for? I'm going to take a quick second. Hey, Lynn, if you lost your screen, go ahead and go back out and then try to get back into the webinar again, and it should refresh for you. Okay, what are the things that I look for when I reconcile? Well, some of the first things that I do is I'm going to come to my transactions tab, and I'm going to look at my transactions. And I may print out my general ledger detail report. These PPs are returns. So I'm going to go running after somebody for the returns to figure out what has happened. You know, hey, did we get the credit back from the vendor yet? And see if these PPs add up to what I'm out of balance. If I see an IR in there, an inventory receipt, I'm definitely going to find that register and find out who received that in through inventory receipt and why. So like I said, the first thing I do is I either come to the screen or I print out the general ledger detail report and I start looking. IRs, PPs. Okay, now let's go back to you inheriting that really ugly purchases clearing report. You come into a company, you come into purchase order entry, you click on the magnifying glass, and instead of 20 records, you find 1,600. So you go to the people and you say, why? Why do we have so many records out here? Well, it could be a couple reasons. One could be that under your setup options, this is set to 999 days. Some folks don't like to lose their purchase order history, and I will tell you that it was announced at Sage Summit this year that they are going to finally put in purchase order history file just like we have on sales order. And we will be able to go ahead and let these completed purchase orders purge off, but still go to a history file. That's going to be coming in the 2015 version. Some of us, even though that's set to 999 days, they never, ever close purchase order because people go, oh, you have to close purchase order? Yeah, that would be nice, because when you close purchase order, it looks at how many days they're supposed to retain completed. That means the POs have to be in a completed status. They do the, how many days. It looks at it when you do PO, period end, and it wipes those completed ones off. So you go and you catch this up, you do period ends, you catch it up, but when you run this purchases clearing report, it's still 40 pages long, and you have a bunch of this junk, why, So what do you have to do in order to get these old POs off the system? Well, there is a utility. Well, actually, let's take a step back. The way to make this work proper is obviously I ordered 100, I have to receive 100, and I have to be invoiced for 100, not -1. So what would I have to do in these cases? Well, I would have to go in and I would have to receive in 1 to make that match, or maybe I'm never going to get that 1, so I want to change my PO to say 99. And then I want to fix my invoice, and I want to be invoiced for, however many. You have to be very careful if you're an average cost person, because a lot of times when we go to fix these, we'll go in ahead and put in a zero cost. Well, zero cost will make our average cost incorrect. So those folks that use average cost, what I tell them to do, like say for instance, in a situation like this, maybe I do need to receive in 10 more. I'll let them go ahead and receive it in with the correct cost, but then you go into inventory adjustments and you adjust it out. And where does it adjust out to? Cost of sales. Okay, keep that in mind. It's going to hit cost of sales. That's not a problem, though, because after you clean all these up, you're going to get a new figure here. So once you get them all cleaned up, what I tell people to do is, okay, let's run this report. Then look at your balance on your general ledger for your purchases clearing and adjust that purchases clearing account to this balance. And where does it hit? Cost of sales. Now, your only other place for it to hit would be inventory. But if your inventory valuation ties, you obviously don't want to hit inventory valuation. Now, what if I've got, I'm one of those lucky ones that inherited a 40-page purchases clearing with all these old 1,600 POs, and I don't want to go one by one and receive in fake receipt of goods, and they have to adjust them out, and fake invoices, and then have to adjust them down to 0. What do I do? Well, you can come in here, and you can go to your utilities menu underneath your purchase order module, and you can click on Purge Obsolete Purchase Orders. And it'll give you a date. And maybe you say, well, I just want this year's, and then I'll deal with, if I narrow my field, if I narrow down how many old POs that I have out there, I can, deal with just having to do some fake receipt of goods and some fake receipt of invoices and adjusting those out. But I want to wipe out all that old stuff. So if you use Purge Obsolete Purchase Orders, what it will do is it will go out and it'll look at the last time that there has been a receipt of goods or a receipt of invoice against this PO. If it's on or before this date, it'll wipe them out. But if you've had, let's say you've had a receipt of goods, prior to this date, obviously it's or past this date, it's not going to delete it. So you don't have to worry about deleting something that's current. It actually checks receipt of goods and receipt of invoices, because some of us have like blanket orders out there, and even though they're not set up as master repeating orders, we have them as regular POs. We want them out there. So if you've done a receipt of them lately, you're not going to lose that information. So let the system purge them off. Deal with your purchasing guy having a heart attack, because now when he goes into purchase order entry, he clicks his little magnifying glass, they're no longer there. And then handle just those few that you have to correct. Some of us, what we find is we eventually have to take a hit. If we're cleaning up a very old mess, cost of sales ends up having to take a hit. And that's just it. I mean, it's just the way that it is, because of the fact that somebody, 2 years ago or a year or this year or whatever has been making mistakes, and nobody's been catching them as they've been making those mistakes. As I said, this is an account that needs to be reconciled every single month. If you want to look at it once a week, look at it once a week. You can. But your normal culprits are going to be those returns. The return with the PO, with an invoice number, you'll be fine. But if it's without a PO number, or even with a PO number without an invoice, it's going to affect that account. The other culprit, unfortunately, is our accountants. And I've had to train many accountants over the years, including our accountants here, 20-some years ago, when they ran across this account and didn't know what it was. And I have accountants that clear it out. I'm like, what are you doing? That is a balance sheet account. That balances to something. So let's not just wipe it out. So, look at this account, make sure it balances. Usually once you get it in balance, you can keep it in balance. Because like you saw, I did many different scenarios. I did different dollar amounts. I did different quantities. That purchases clearing report should help keep you in balance. But people make mistakes. They're going to over-invoice. And yes, the system does tell you that you are over-invoicing, and we just click past it. But you're going to over-invoice. You're going to over-receive, and those things have to be corrected. Sometimes when it gets to the point where we just can't find it, we just do a journal entry, and that's just the nature of the beast. But in most cases, you should be able to stay in balance. I threw a lot of information at you today. I do have, I will obviously be sending out the documentation, and this is recorded. As we have talked about before, if you go to our website and you go to the software solutions, we have our Tech Tuesdays out here now. And today we were lucky because I actually did remember to click the record button. We do have the recording for this, but it's just not out there yet. We'll get that out there. That was the last Tech Tuesday. And we will have the recording out there for today also. So please feel free to visit the website, pass this on to other people. I do have another question out here. What is the difference between the purchases clearing report and the purchases clearing report in open PO format? Not really too very much. I personally like the purchases clearing report because I think it's easier to read. And she's talking about this one right here. What this one does is it shows you it looks almost just like the open PO report. So, you kind of have to look here, here, and here, 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 and here, and, here you see a discrepancy right there. To me, the other report is easier to use, but you can use this report. Some folks like this report better. I don't. But this one tells you your total purchases clearing, and then this amount here gives you plus special and miscellaneous items. So I don't often use this report, but it is out there. And like I said, if that one makes you happy, go ahead and use that one. I personally like the other one because I can, at a glance, boom, I got it. I can see where my discrepancies are, and I use my little yellow highlighter and going, okay, we're going to check this, and you're going to check that. Okay, that is what I have today. Looks like our questions are pretty much taken care of. If I missed anybody, feel free to call me afterwards. I did have a question here. Can we get the report to run to a flat file in Excel? I'm going to say probably yes, because this is a crystal report now. If you are prior to version 4.4, it's not a crystal report, but this is a crystal report now, so we should be able to preview it and use the export function to take it out to Excel. What I would recommend if we do that, though, we will probably create a custom one, because this is 2 lines, and we don't really want that on 2 lines when you push it out to Excel. So I'm going to say yes, we could probably easily do that. And it looks like one of the users tried it, and he said, yes, it is a mess when you try to push it out with these 2 lines. But we can easily fix that to take it down to 1 line. So anywho, that's what I have for you guys today. I am looking for subject matter for any of our next Tech Tuesdays. We are coming to year end, so we are going to be probably doing another inventory one here real soon. I also wanted to remind you, if you are in version 4.4 or prior, 4.4 as of September was retired by Sage. Now, of course, we've talked about this. That doesn't mean that we will not support you. We will always support you. But if we have to call Sage, we are likely to have to beg, borrow, and plead to have them help us. So if you're on 4.4 or prior, we need to think about getting you caught up to date. Also this year, and we may actually do a Tech Tuesday on this, doing 1099s and W-2s are going to be different. If you're on 2014, you will have to use the e-filing and reporting. Now keep in mind, I'm not telling you you have to e-file. It's the and reporting piece. The forms are going to be printed out of here using the Atrix add-on program that we link to, both for 1099s and for W-2s and other tax forms. So I just wanted to throw that out there since we're coming up to year-end. And I am researching the tax forms and which ones that we need to direct you to buy, because quite often I don't think it is with the 1099s. I think those are blank, but the W-2s are actually blank forms. So anyway, if you have any ideas for Tech Tuesdays, please throw them at me, and we will do our best to get them out for you. I'm so sorry that we ran quite a bit over, but this was actually a pretty big topic. I'm glad you joined us. Everybody have a great day. Try to get outside. The sun is shining. We're not going to have too many days like this. So have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye for now.